let's get to our first conversation this Friday afternoon. The Nigerian Naira has recorded its strongest gains in 7 months, buoyed by some robust foreign reserves that saw a $4.1 billion rise between July and August. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria showed that Naira rose to about 1,506.08 to a dollar on Wednesday at the Nigerian foreign exchange market window. The last time it was that strong was on 5th of March 2025 when it closed at 1,500 Naira 80 kobo per dollar. The Naira has continued to enjoy rare stability driven by various policies of the Apex Bank, including maintaining a high interest rate, a move that has lured in foreign capital and made the currency firmer. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria raised the yields on one-year Nigerian Treasury bills to 21.49% at the most recent primary auction. It represented the third consecutive time the Apex Bank would be raising the yields in 1 year. The Treasury bills increment started at first auction in August, when the yield spurred 19.75%. This marked a reversal from the downward trend seen most of this year. Yields on one-year Treasury bills declined to 18.96% in July from 29.1% at the start of the year. Well, let's talk more about this development. My guest is a special advisor to the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on economic affairs, Dr. Tokpe Fashua. He joins me live from our Abuja studios. Dr. Fashua, good afternoon. Thank you so much. It's good to have you join the show this Friday afternoon.
Right. Good afternoon, Tolu, and thanks for the invite.
Yes. I'm sure you heard my introduction, and I am looking at this stability that we've seen in our foreign exchange market. We've seen Mr. Olayemi Cardoso and, of course, Mr. Wale Edun always putting heads together with regards to this market stability that we've seen and, addressing that disparity that used to occur between the parallel market and, of course, the official exchange rate. In your own assessment, where are we with regards to this? Talking about our currency, is it now appropriately priced in your thoughts?
Well, I think it's been appropriately priced for a while because, there's been a lot of flexibility around the trading of the Naira and participation of market forces. So nobody is holding down the Naira at any point in time or trying to fix the Naira or trying to peg the Naira or anything of that sort. So from the moment that this administration came in and with the idea that, look, the kind of arbitrage that used to happen around the Naira, where people could get the Naira for 450 Naira and offload at 800, needed to go. So there was that initial point where we had a bit of volatility and the Naira actually lost ground, depreciated to about 1,800 before recovering. So since that point in time, even the recovery stage is part of market forces at work. And of course, the central bank does intervene once in a while now in strategic fashion, buying or selling, into the same market, meaning that the central bank has taken a kind of neutral role to allow the market to express itself. So if you look at it from that point of view, you can actually conclude that indeed, the Naira is where it's supposed to be. Now, it could get stronger, and in fact, it looks like it's getting stronger. And I think that is other factors in the economy actually taking hold as well. I mean, we've been able to grow reserves to about $42 billion. And of course, the net reserve, which is the real core reserve, went up from about $3 billion in 2023 June to perhaps close to 30 something billion dollars now. And of course, investors are looking at all of those things, including speculators. You can see that those have actually let the Naira be because they understand that the central bank has developed the ability to defend the Naira where if the need be. And so nobody is speculating on the Naira or buying the dollar to keep under their bed, shorting the Naira to go long on dollar. That's not the issue. In fact, if you then also consider the fact that a few weeks ago, it was announced that Nigerian cards can now begin to do transactions abroad. In fact, with your Naira card, you can withdraw a certain amount of money from the ATMs abroad. You can pay for a few transactions. That shows remarkable confidence in the management of the foreign exchange situation of Nigeria. And that also sends a message to speculators again. And so where the Naira is actually is where it's supposed to be at every point in time. One more point I would make before landing on this is that many times we find a scenario where you could actually buy the dollar, cheaper in the open market, the parallel market, the black market, whatever it is you call it, than you would buy from official sources through the banks, which is an inversion that had not happened, at least for as far as I've been following the Nigeria foreign exchange market for over 30 years now. It's something that I hadn't seen happen, where you would get the dollar to buy cheaper in the open market than you would in the banking system. This is one of the things that happened, and something that shows that, look, the gains of the proper regulation of that market that we have seen under Mr. Cardoso in the last few months, and of course under the the guidance and support of Mr. President, is not a temporary gain. It's looking like there's a fundamental restructure of the economy. Remember that we stopped paying fuel subsidies, which used to take close to $10 billion from this economy at some point in time. Even the depreciation of the Naira is indeed itself an advantage because the states are getting so much money in Naira, equally the federal, equally the local government. There's focus on using the Naira to reboot the economy, which is what's going on now. That takes attention away from the dollar, allows us to accrete reserves, shows the rest of the world that this economy is on a stronger footing. Even the ratings agencies have since taken notice of that by increasing the ratings of Nigeria, moving it up a notch or two. So I mean, I'd say we're in a good place. We're taking a cautionary stance. We're not bragging about it, but in terms of managing the economy and moving towards a positive trajectory, I think something has been achieved.
I would follow up with the fact that when there is this level of stability, foreign direct investment is expected. I spoke to the Minister of Trade, I think 2 days ago on this same show, and I asked her the same question. I'm going to ask you too, as a special advisor to the President on Economic Affairs. When are we expecting foreign direct investments to start trickling into our economy? Mr. President has been the chief marketing officer of this country, going all around, talking about how the country is open for business. But we, the business journalists, expect FDIs to start to trickle in. Let this start to turn to Naira and Kobo. What are those things we need to put in place for us to start to get this in immediately?
Right. Yes, of course, Mr. President was, even yesterday, was still with President Macron of France. At every point in time, is working towards making sure that this country gets better in every kind of way. A lot happens. Just last week, a number of our ministers were in IATF in Algeria, the Inter-Africa Trade Fair. We're pushing at every point in time. There's a lot of activities going on. There are a lot of multilateral events that are going on where Nigeria features. There are also bilateral ones where Nigeria is talking to different countries across the board, trying to make things happen. The things that needed to be done have been done, that I can tell you, especially the reforms around the Naira, the reforms around petrol. I think that we now need to begin to look at Nigeria and Nigerian economy in a different way. For example, the foreign investment that came into Nigeria back in the day used to be skewed towards oil and gas. Back in the day, it used to be skewed towards oil and gas. So it was, Shell was bringing in some new investment to develop a new field, or Chevron, or Oando, or the other players, Total, Health and Co. But now we see a scenario where most of the assets, especially the onshore assets of those companies, have been bought by local players. That the Oandos of this world, the Seplats of this world have taken out Mobile. MRS has bought quite a number of the assets of Chevron, and Renaissance has taken over a lot of the assets of Shell. Now, what that means is that new investments will be made by these companies, into developing the assets that they have acquired, will no longer feature as foreign direct investment. If they were in the hands of foreigners, they would have featured as foreign direct investment. But now a lot of the investment may just go in as domestic investment. And so, whereas we shouldn't be too fixated with pursuing foreign direct investment as if we were helpless to help ourselves. The reason why many of the assets in the oil sector have now been taken over by local players is because we are showing that we are competent and that we can also manage our own affairs ourselves, even in that sophisticated industry called the oil and gas industry. So that's very important for us to note. And of course, 50% of Nigeria's production of crude oil on a daily basis, the 1.7 million barrels that we do, 50% of that is being done by local players now, with the balance being done by the IOCs who are still around, many of whom are now playing deep sea, in deep sea. So let's look at but there's foreign direct investment. If you look at some of the discussions in Brazil, which culminated in the immediate opening of a Barca connection, airline connection between Sao Paulo and Lagos, which is going to be developed. That was an immediate, gain from that, and money is going to come into that. Investment is going to come into that. So when you're looking for those foreign investment, you should also look at some of those flows that would happen as a result of the trade connections that are being made in all of these, travels that not only Mr. President but his ministers and other operatives of government have been undertaking. So I think that we are onto a new trajectory, but you need that introspection to be able to identify what the real, inflows are and when they come.
Indeed. Now, let me ask you this. We agree to the fact that the macro are looking pretty well. Inflation, well, we still have issues with month-on-month inflation, but year-on-year inflation seems to be on the decline. Now, you've talked about foreign reserves, which is above $41 billion, which is also a positive for Nigeria. Net reserves doing pretty well. But Nigerians are asking the question, or let me ask you on their behalf, that what really is the deliberate action from government to address the vulnerable ones that are challenged, that are actually impacted by the fallout of some of these policies? What is on ground? A lot of schemes we hear of, but can you tell us some?
Okay.
So that Nigerians know where they stand.
Thank you very much. A lot of things are on ground already. A lot of them are in different ministries, different agencies who are rolling out every day on a daily basis. There's a lot of things being done in the Ministry of Youth, in the Ministry of, under Minister Pate, who is the coordinating minister for everything health and humanitarian. There's a lot of things being done in the humanitarian ministry. There's a lot of things being done even in terms of financial inclusion, and also there's a lot of things being done in infrastructure. Let me start with infrastructure, then I will now roll out to a few of those initiatives that I mentioned. And I'm actually collating a report right now that's going to bring together all of those things that are being done to show that indeed there is a huge effort going on towards poverty eradication in this country. It depends on how we present it, and we're going to present it in the right way. So now, if you look at multi-dimensional poverty, a 2022 report says that 133 million Nigerians are in multi-dimensional poverty. People like to use it as a weapon so often. But what is multi-dimensional poverty? It's non-income poverty. It measures how distant people are from critical infrastructure that they need. It's only in the last 2 years that we have had a road built and commissioned going to Nembe in this country. Nembe and other axes in the Niger Delta used to be cut off, and you can only get there by a boat, by a speedboat or canoe or something. In some parts of Taraba, we still have that problem. So for those who complain that Nigeria is spending on infrastructure, I just want to tell them that the only way you can reduce multidimensional poverty is via the provision of infrastructure. And, you know, from my own research, if Nigeria continues along the infrastructure building path and continues to invest in critical infrastructure like schools, like health centers, like roads, like bridges, you know, stuff that people really need, like water, like electricity, even alternative energy, not only grid power. In the next 10 years, if we start from 2023, with this strategy, in 10 years, about 70 million people would have been taken out of multidimensional poverty in Nigeria alone. And of course, that's going to also reduce at least take out about 35 to 40 million people from abject poverty, food poverty in this country. So that's it. It needs to be very much emphasized that the only way you can reduce multidimensional poverty, QED, is by investment in infrastructure across the board. There's no other way. You know, you have to just do that for the people. So let's encourage the state governments and, of course, the federal government in their infrastructure in opening up new ways. One of the ways that you can reduce poverty is by enabling people who are poor to be able to relocate from where they live to where they can get some better prospects. So the road is important. The bridge is important. Even the coastal roads that we mentioned, the arterial road that will go through this country, all of those things are important towards bringing in new initiatives, new investment. And, you know, it also goes back to the issue of foreign or local investment. I think that the journalists should also try and trace how much of local investments are going on in Nigeria, Nigerians that are opening new companies, opening new ventures, adding value to things that we need in this country. There's even a textile company that's investing in Nigeria about $5 billion in the Ogun State axis. You know, a lot of companies are now investing in the solar panel sector. I just spoke with somebody who should know this morning and so on. So let's also look at that. Perhaps what we need is domestic investment, a scenario where Nigerians would invest their own money in this country rather than take the money and send it outside this country. United States and all the other big countries that we talk about did not develop by foreign direct investment. They did not develop with domestic investment. They kept their money in their country. They went abroad and brought money, and whatever they got, they took it back to their country. I think that is the real workable scenario, the real workable strategy for a country like ours. So there's a number of things. There's a department and different agencies working on financial inclusion, ensuring that Nigerians have accounts so that they can get transfers, they can get money, and that will reduce poverty. There's a school feeding program going on already. There's a Renewed Hope GEP, which focuses on all of these projects that you know, VP Oshibajo used to handle, like trader money, market money. All of those things are still going on. They're under a certain gentleman called Hamza Baba Ibrahim, who's a friend of mine. You know, so there are so many things going on in this country. There's infrastructure projects that are targeted at poor people. There's 4,000 health centers have been renovated in this country, in primary healthcare centers under Minister Partey since the last 2 years, and a lot more. And of course, there's also private sector intervention in some of these things. So indeed, there's a poverty eradication strategy which is targeted and, you know, almost the kind of way the Chinese were able to take people out of poverty, also going on in Nigeria. So people should not just ask, what's in it for us? I will also mention, look at the support that's going on into agric in this country. Of course, the yearly distribution of fertilizer is one thing. Fertilizers became very expensive. The government had to step in to ensure that we got fertilizers and distribute to states so that production can go on. Last year, we had a very good harvest in this country. The floods came, but they did not actually damage us too badly. This year, it's likely that we're going to have even another bumper harvest because a lot of people have gone to the farm. There's a lot of incentive. The value of where the Naira is has strategically also encouraged people to go back to farm. I mean, this morning I was reading about the cashew farmers, some of them complaining about, oh, they don't want us to export anymore, shea nuts. There's a certain temporary ban on that as well because we need to feed local industries. So if we don't, I mean, there's also the soybean aspect. People who do soybean oil, if you go to Kano in Chalawa area, you see several industries that are there, and I think that is what we really need, that local organic, renaissance of the economy, that, the things that we need ourselves, we should be able to produce rather than get fixated with this idea of everything must come from abroad. No, we're not that helpless. Like the Vice President would like to say, we should take dignity even in our own poverty if we are poor. But I don't believe we're poor as a country. I believe that we have great prospects, and a lot of the activities of government and a lot of the efforts are coming together, and they will come together even more and begin to show very positive results in the next couple of months.
Finally, we have 2 minutes to wrap this up. I don't know if we can do this in 2 minutes. The tax law, the implementation should start up from next January, that's 2026. There's been a lot of back and forth with regards to that. Even the ministry had to react to the 5% tax on Fusifor. But generally, my question is what you make of the expected implementation of the entire document.
I think it's going to be seamless. I even have a bet I took with Dr. Teriba, where he challenged me one day that that tax law will not be implemented as that by January. And I said, I'm willing to take a bet. I can't remember how much we put on it anyway, but that's just by the way. I believe it will be seamless. Because it's a matter of, it's an imperative. It needs to be done. And everything has been set. There'll be 1 or 2 tweaks here and there. For example, I think you mentioned the issue of the 5% surcharge, which has been dropped from what I understand. And of course, it's not something that's going to kick in January. Every other thing is going to kick in. Who doesn't want it to kick in? Most Nigerians are going to be getting a huge tax relief by January. A lot of people who had been taxed earlier on their pay, and we will get a lot of relief. A lot of people will walk away without any taxes. In fact, from the analysis I've seen, any family that's earning, anyone that's earning 1 million naira per annum will not be taxed. That's 800,000 base, 200,000 for your rent. So if you have a wife and husband who are earning 1 million each, that is 2 million naira they can walk away with and not be taxed at all. And I think this is great because before, the barriers were a lot lower, maybe like 200,000, and then people start to tax you because the government understands that, of course, inflation has come in, the value of the naira is lower. But what we have seen is an increased velocity in terms of productivity in this country, whether from the individual perspective or even from companies, especially local companies that are now doing a whole lot. And Mr. President has said we should patronize local companies. In fact, there's a rule that was enacted at one of the Federal Executive Council meetings to say buy Nigeria. And I think that should be, in fact, a couple of days back, some people were talking about, ShopRite is having issue. I said, well, we shouldn't be focused on maybe a South African supermarket line that came into Nigeria and seem not to be able to cope, but that's that. But if you look at, there are many other local companies that are in that space who have transformed the space. We went to Sahad stores, you see Ebano, all of those places that are going, I'm not giving them 2 free adverts in this place. So anyhow, but I'm just saying that we need to be very introspective in terms of how we analyze an economy where a president has taken a strong position, a position that most people would actually shy away from, to do the critical things that will begin to yield, not in the long run, but we're talking about even in the short and medium term. And let's just stay positive, like I'd always tell people. Thank you very much.
Dr. Tokwe Fashua, Special Advisor to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on economic affairs. Thank you so much for your time on this program. Do have a great weekend.
You're welcome. Thank you.